But yeah, I'd like categorize myself into this nerd. I would always have like crushes. I'd be like, oh, I like this girl, whatever. And just tell like everyone that I like that girl. I just tell everyone that I like that girl.
Start your own rumor.
Yeah, I start my own rumor.
Apparently.
And then like she just like doesn't want to talk to me. Of course she doesn't, because like I'm just weird. I'm just going around saying, oh, I like this girl, or whatever. I just don't know what I'm doing. But like, because you watch a movie and you're like, oh, having a girlfriend or whatever. Just you're 5 years old. You just don't know what reality is, and you're watching these Hollywood tropes or whatever. I think it was a big part of, and also like body image. People don't talk about it, but like when you have a buck tooth or whatever, people called me bunny, and you get bullied for that. Like body image will set in, like the issues or whatever, and like to this day. To be honest, now I'm like quite confident in like the way I look.
So he was like, I recommend having 3 years gaps between your children if you have them, and then he basically just said that the dynamic between the children might be a bit more kind of, based on his experiences, more just less there's less tension. It's clearer, like because someone is 3 to 4 years older than the younger sibling, they have a lot more experience than them, so there's a bit more authority when they speak.
Can't compete.
It's not really too competitive, and also they can help out as well, which is. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think competitiveness is probably the big thing. Because there's only 1 year difference. So I do something, in 1 year he's gonna try and do the same thing. A levels, GCSEs, uni experience. I'd say uni he's beating me right now. he's a lot more disciplined when it comes to uni work. Even though he probably thinks he just always complains about, oh, there's too much work, and I'm sitting here like I don't do any work and I'm chilling. And I'm just like, but yeah, and then it's like because now we went to the same school, same sixth form. Now that we've like diverged a bit, I think the difference is in terms of like dealing with new people, all of these things. He's got a different group of people that he's dealing with. Imperial, it's all STEM students, so he hasn't got really any people with actual personalities. But Cambridge, we're lucky. Both of you didn't do STEM subjects. So I'm just like, I just basically pretend to be a non-STEM student when I'm at uni. People I like to be, I didn't know you, but I thought you did history. Just because I will not talk about my course. It's just for me at least. No, it's not something really that I think is worth talking about. When you're talking about history, politics, and these kinds of things, I feel like it's just way more interesting. And you can talk about it without knowing what you're talking about. You can't talk about engineering. You can't just waffle about engineering. But if you know one thing, one concept even, you can just use your lived experience to relate it to it. Anecdotal evidence is a real thing. It's not a real thing in STEM. So I think I was thinking about it recently. It's like anecdotally, this is this. You can make that point. In a non-STEM field. In a STEM field, it's not allowed. You just can't do that.
Based on my subjective, observational life experience.
What accuracy implement did you use? Did you use this completely inaccessible form of measurement, or did you just waffle it over? And there's mad corruption in STEM anyway. People are just manipulating statistics and all this to get the results that they want. I think people just have way too much trust in it.
Interesting. Do you lot feel like when you go for walks, you have a different type of conversation than say you're at a restaurant or at a dinner? Or, do you feel like the dynamic that you're having a conversation in alters the type of conversation or type of things that you'll be talking about?
You've got more stimuli, obviously. So when you're walking, there'll be a building that you see. I appreciate architecture and the buildings that I live around way more now. I'm looking up rather than down. When I'm walking around, so I'm just like, oh, that looks peng. Or imagine, would you live there? Every time I say, would you live there? It's always, yeah, of course. It's like a stupid question because it's like
right now we live in the same coordinates, bro. I live anywhere else, bro.
I live in an affluent area in a council flat. So any other option really is gonna be better. Bro. It's just gonna be better. Bro. So it's like, would you live there? Recently as well, they're building some new gentrification, aesthetic flats. I was like, oh, that's nice. I'd live there. I was like, yeah, you would. Obviously.
That's a very West London problem, like that. Yeah,
bro.
Nah, so true.
But yeah, walking versus like a restaurant. Yeah, no, I think it's more dynamic. You know, you're on your feet. You know, you haven't got food to deal with. Um, and I mean, it works nicely because then walking somewhere, you know, it's less of like a chore. You know, because whilst you're walking, you can walk for 1 hour. People at Cambridge who live at like in like Girton or like, well, people don't really walk back to Girton, but like Homerton, you know, people will walk back to Homerton. It'll take them an hour, but because they're with someone, it'll feel like 15 minutes. You know, because you're just talking the whole time. It's not like you're gonna get tired. You're talking. You know, you unless you're like with someone that you just can't talk to. Some people like that.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. And I also think another aspect of it is the fact that you're not looking at each other. Like when you're walking side by side and you're just going in straight direction, you're kind of talking to each other but not looking at each other's faces. And I think that makes the conversation flow a bit easier, because when you're looking at someone's face, it can, I don't know, for whatever reason, it can kind of change the way that you speak, because you might be responding to their facial expressions. You know what I mean? Like you don't know how enthusiastic or engaged they are in the conversation necessarily, right? There's less cues to respond to. So yeah, man, I love walking and talking. And there's one, remember Nasser Chowdhury, right?
Yeah.
He did one thing in final year that I really rated. Like he would message one person, one of his friends, every week to go for a walk with, someone he hadn't caught up with in a while. And I think that's a really sick idea. One question we like to ask all our guests is what's one of your earliest memories growing up?
Earliest memory. I feel like I don't know. I'm lucky because I have like VHS tapes of like when I was like 3 and that, and like there's just some hilarious things that I did, and then like watching that, then I like can get like a kind of. I'm answering this like proper, literally, like actual earliest memory. Memory, it would just be like small like things like seeing like something on the TV or like watching a show. I think like a vivid like a lucid memory. I don't even know, but I remember a lot like when I was like 4. Like I remember stuff like when I started nursery, like speaking to people. When I was 5 and I started reception, so people call me Qamil. But throughout all of primary, everyone called me Jamil. The only reason people called me Jamil is like first day of reception, a girl called Nabila, she asked me, "What's your name?" And I said, Chamil. And I was like, "That's my name. My name is Chamil." My parents have called me Chamil. I probably had like some like East European accent as well, because I learned like from my parents, obviously, and they obviously have an accent. So I'm like, "My name's Chamil," and then she's like, "Jamil, no, Chamil." I was like, "Okay, Jamil."
Can't believe you remember her name as well, bro. That's jokes.
I'm so lucky that I had so many people from my primary, from nursery, that I've like gone to the same school with.
Oh wow!
Until sixth form,
mad.
Until sixth form, there's a good like 10, 15 people.
That's
like
actually
that.
crazy.
Yeah,
Do you have friends
not
like that,
10,
or like people you know like that? That's mad. You know them since 4 to 18, bro.
But it's like
that's
we're not
crazy.
even like good friends.
Yeah,
we're just
like,
like people
them when they
that
were
have like grown
reception.
like in a parallel life, and like you see like where they are now. And I mean it's weird. Obviously, like everyone has like a view of like how they are the center of like it's like a Truman Show type of thing. And I'm just like, I feel like just me and like the people like that surround me are just special. And I just see like the kind of it's very like like spiritual, but like our auras and like all of these like kind of characteristics that we have. I just feel like we just have like a special vibe, like the people that I obviously grew up with, and then like where we are now. But obviously it's not true. Like we're just normal people. But I think it's growing up near people, growing up with the same kind of experiences. You just appreciate that. But I will say, my secondary like school cohort, especially in sixth form, we were a lot closer than most other cohorts. Like we were like, people say like, "Oh, your U group was like a family," and I was like, "Damn!" Like it kind of was. And it's like there was drama, but like with the people that I was hanging out with, no drama. It's just me and the boys like playing Minecraft. Like what is there to be drama about? This guy blew up my base. Like that's it. That was the extent of drama. And then you hear about stuff later. It's like when you grow up and you hear about like the family drama. When you get old enough, and your parents sit you down, and it's like, look, this is actually how it is. And then you realize like, oh, but part of that is like being naive, right? For me is like I say it a lot. I'm just like I would love to be naive. I like to be naive. I don't want to have to assume, you know, the worst about someone.
Mm.
I don't want to have to assume that someone's gonna betray me or lie to me or whatever. And it's like even then, like you go through life, it's so much more positive. Even if someone does like, you know, disappoint you or whatever, just, you know, forgive, forget, and move on, and continue to be not naive in such that like you're gonna get, I don't know, murdered or something. Like someone walks up to you with a knife, it's like, okay, let's be friends. Like not like that, but you get what I mean, yeah.
What do you think your childhood self would think about you today?
I don't know. He'd be gassed that I go into Cambridge. So, I mean, maybe he'd be disappointed that I'm not like, because I had huge delusions of grandeur. Like as a child, I'm like 5 years old or like 8 years old, and I'm looking in the newspaper. I'm like, where's the article about me? I'm like, where am I? You know, you should be writing about
Why
me.
do you think that is, bro?
Because
Talk about that.
so I think because I started reading early, I think academically I was like really ahead of my peers. Like I remember just like in reception, I'd be writing, reading like just like on a completely different level. And obviously like that discrepancy, like it gets smaller. I know that my parents also told me like they were gonna put me in a different year group, like one of the older year groups, and they just said no because like, you know, the physical differences, like I'm just like a little kid. I also like socially like probably would have been an outcast. Ended up still happening, but like
No way.
What? Really?
yeah,
you
no,
got,
I
you
got
got
I got bullied like from
Oh.
not from like year 4 to like year 7.
Really?
So it's not that bad, but I had like a fat buck tooth in it. So when I closed my mouth, there's just a huge gap between like my lower front teeth and my upper front teeth. I got braces in year 8, so and also, but yeah, so like being like socially outcast, partially because like just like I didn't know how to speak to people because I'm talking about like this book that I read. And I was like, everyone's read this book that you know, my mom bought me from a random shop. It's like no understanding of like, you know, what other people are like as like independent beings. You know, just haven't figured that out yet. It took me till year 8 to be like, yeah, people are actually like me. You know, but yeah, up until that point, it's like I'm just mad different, and I'm struggling to like relate to the other kids. When I'm in the park, I'm just you know, I know how to like, you know, I had like a routine or whatever. I just like to go up to someone and be like, oh, do you want to play tag or whatever? Just play tag. It's so fun, and it's like I got to a certain age, I couldn't do that anymore. And I'm thinking about, I was like, why can't I do this anymore? Like, why can't I just go up to a random kid and be like, oh wait, it's because most of the time they're like with someone else, they're not by themselves. So their parents didn't bring them by themselves. But yeah, then, you know, when you get buck tooth and people start making fun of you, and then already people are struggling to like relate to you on that level, and I always had like, I ended up like, you know, getting this idea like, oh, you know, I'm just like too mature, too smart. You know, only teachers laugh at my jokes. So it's like I'd make jokes, only teachers will laugh at. You know, kids didn't get my jokes, so I'm just like, this must be it. And then, you know, when you get bullied, your parents tell you, oh, it's because they're jealous. You know, then when that gets into your head, and you get this like superiority complex. You know, you just think your parents have told you you're better than these people. So now this is when you speak to them, you can't. They're gonna get that you think you're better than them, and then that's like this big one of my probably biggest like issues is that like arrogance and like superiority complex like. So it's like year 8, you know, year 7. I'm getting bullied by the people that like I went to nursery with. So it's like, you know, I need to switch this up. So it was difficult. You know, I'm struggling, and then with the teacher, one of my teachers, one of like the heads of years or someone like that. So she gave me the option to switch blocks. The year 7 was split into block A and block B, and they basically didn't have classes together. So I was really lucky. I went from block A to block B. Block B, I just fully remodeled myself. And I was like, you know what? So that was my biggest issue. I would like not be friends with people because I thought, oh, it wasn't worth being friends with them. I thought, oh, I'm too cool or whatever. You know, someone would want to be friends with me, and I wouldn't want to be friends with them. Year 8, switched up. I'm gonna be friends with everyone. I'm gonna, you know, try and make everyone laugh. I'm gonna try and, you know, just relate to everyone, and, you know, just, you know, enjoy my school experience. And then, you know, it just, you know, socially it was just like a mad, you know, leap of development. And the thing is, now that I've like developed differently, like socially, because it's like you're basically like kind of isolated. I would just have like a best friend. Like from year 3 to year 7, I'd have a best friend and that's it. Because I had a best friend, and when we were around other people, that best friend wasn't my best friend. They just like barely knew who I was, and they wouldn't like defend me. Obviously, you can't. It's social pressure. But yeah, then it's like year 8, switched it up, and it's probably big influence on like what I'm like now. But obviously, you still have to develop. There's still things that I picked up when I was, 13 years old that I need to get rid of now. Like saying the first thing that comes into my head because I think it will be funny. Can't do that. You just can't do that. In school, you can. In school, you can just say the first thing that comes into your head, and you have the whole class laughing. And year 8, first time that happened, and it wasn't them laughing at me. It was laughing at a joke that I intentionally made. So yeah, it was. I mean, just becoming naughty like that. So that's kind of what I did. But because I was academically good, like I was still good academically. The teachers wouldn't get onto me, so it was just kind of messed up because like other kids would do the exact same thing as me, and I just wouldn't get in trouble. So it was just me kind of like taking advantage, and it just works out. And a lot of my life right now is like I'm just so lucky that things work out just for some reason. The combination of factors just seem to make things work out. I spoke for like 15 minutes.
There are two things that come to mind. First thing is a question for you, sir, the dean. Is there like a character trait that you had when you were 13 that you think you still have right now? That you think that
How old? What year are you in your?
You're 8.
Yeah, 8. I remember wanting to change schools in my first week of year 7, so not exactly 13, and I created a plan. I was like, when I get home, I'm gonna ring this school. I'm ringing Burlington Danes School. So I looked up the phone number by myself, called them, and when you're checking in with your mum, every step, like, hold, I'm gonna do this for real, and you check in with her, and then she's like, cool, yeah, do it. I'm like, what? Like, it's okay, cool, I'm actually gonna do it though, because all of these things, at this stage in my life, I'm thinking I'm gonna do it, but I know this is not something that I would usually do. It usually your mum or your parent or whatever, So I think for me, doing something that I thought I'm not supposed to be doing this, or this isn't necessarily for someone at my stage to call up the school and be like, when can I come in? I want to do a viewing, or like an open day. Imagine like a year 7, your hands behind your back, she's all going, this is interesting.
You got the blazer that goes down to your knees.
I want to talk about is this idea, because it seems to be like the turning point kind of came about because of bullying, basically. You said from year 3 to year 7. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of for you to talk a bit more about that and like what that meant in terms of you, and how that kind of like shaped you a bit more.
So what I was thinking about when you just you mentioned like not being categorized, and I had basically accepted like the category of myself as like a nerd, and being a nerd means you're not good at sports. And then in year 8, I'm actually developing like physically. I had the growth spurt. I was actually becoming like a lot better at sports than I knew that I could be. And if I had carried on and maybe had been more serious, then I could be like good at a specific sport. But when you're like 6 years old or whatever, and you're watching all these movies where the nerd, and always in the movies, the movies are written by nerds. The people who write these movies were nerds, so they're gonna make themselves start off as this bullied person and then win in the end. So this is what goes into your heart, it goes into your mind, where you're just like, I'm a nerd, but I'm gonna get the girl, I'm gonna win in the end. And I mean, that's the thing. And people will tell you that as well. Your parents will tell you, fine, you're struggling now, but in 30 years when they're doing a socially less respected job than you, and you'll be earning lots of money, you'll win in the end or whatever. And so it's such a huge, like, I think it's just, maybe it's helpful in the short term, it makes someone feel better about themselves, but the long-term effects of like telling this person this is your category. Not telling this person things will get better. Of course, you tell the person things will get better, because they will get better. Because school doesn't matter, really. Like, it's literally just not, in terms of like going through life, school just doesn't matter. In terms of the small things that you're crying about. But yeah, I'd like categorize myself into this nerd. I would always have like crushes. I'd be like, oh, I like this girl, whatever. And just tell like everyone that I like that girl. I just tell everyone that I like that girl.
Start your own rumor.
Yeah, I start my own rumor.
Apparently.
And then like she just like doesn't want to talk to me. Of course she doesn't, because like I'm just weird. I'm just going around saying, oh, I like this girl, whatever. I just don't know what I'm doing. But like, because you watch a movie and you're like, oh, having a girlfriend or whatever. Just you're 5 years old. You just don't know what reality is, and you're watching these Hollywood tropes or whatever. I think it was a big part of, and also like body image. People don't talk about it, but like when you have a buck tooth or whatever, people called me bunny, and you get bullied for that. Like body image will set in, like the issues or whatever, and like to this day. To be honest, now I'm like quite confident in like the way I look, and I do get like I'm lucky that I have like people around me that affirm that like you are a handsome man or whatever. It's not just my mom, like it's not just your.
For the fourth time, not just.
It's not just my mom, and I have like friends, and it's like when you get more confident, but it's still in there. It's still and like the long term effects of bullying are like, are these people only being my friends because someone's told them to, or like what is you just start doubting everything because you're so used to like people just the baseline has become people don't really like me.
Obviously, all of us met at uni, right? That's when we first met, and that's the what's the word when it's the beginning of something, like origin.
Genesis.
That's the genesis of this friendship. Let's talk a bit about uni. So,
quickly,
go on.
Do you remember the first time you met Qamil? Do you remember what was it?
Oh, such a good
It was in
question.
the prayer room.
Yeah, it must have been
I'm
the prayer
pretty
room,
sure.
innit? Yeah.
The first meaningful interaction. Do you remember it?
Oh, the first thing I remember about Qamil, is that he was the first he was the most active person on the group chat before we started term.
Yeah, it was.
Yes, I remember.
That's one of the worst things to do. It's advice to you right now. Don't message in the group. Just say who you are. Say hi.
What message would you give to your younger self watching this?
My younger self.
Yeah.
I don't know what.
Or if you could sit him down and just chat to him.
Just tell him off. Honestly, like, I'd actually tell myself, practically take the humanities more seriously. So it's like from year 7 to like, till like 6 till uni, I was just like the humanities aren't for me. Again, it was like putting myself into like the stereotype where I was like, I'm a STEM person, I'm a left-brained person. I am. And again, I think it's like probably the beginning of like why I'm not like as good at articulating myself, in words or in writing or in words is because I didn't take that seriously. Even though I considered myself good at the humanities, and like when it came to like speaking in lessons, I felt like I could say like worth good things. Meaningful things, but when it came to just putting them down on paper, I was so lazy, and I was just like, I don't need to do this. I'm just gonna work with numbers and like equations and writing sentences. It's just useless for me. I got to uni and it's like half of my exams were essays in first and second year, and third year was all essays. I was like, I can't write an essay, and it's because at the beginning I just year 7 year 8 in humanities. I just didn't take it seriously, and I apologized. Actually, no, it was like in year 13 that I realized. One of my humanities teachers from like year 9, I apologized to him for not taking humanities seriously when he was my teacher, and I said he went to Fitz Cambridge, and like him and another teacher were a reason why I applied to Fitz specifically, because I was like, oh, they went there, so I don't know if they could sort something out for me. It was like, I was clearly lying to myself. This is for like the top 0.0001% of people. If you're like, the heir to an estate, and not an estate like we know, the other type of estate. But yeah, it didn't matter really. It doesn't really matter what college you applied to. But yeah, he was like, not only, so he said something useful. He said, it's basically a lottery. You know, a lot of people that deserve to get in won't get in, and a lot of people that don't deserve to get in will get in potentially. So you know, don't like. That was basically him saying, you know, don't take any self-worth from like applying to Oxbridge, Cambridge, which was, you know, it was just such a, you know, good thing to say to me. And you know, I think it is, you know, it was part of like my maturity, I think, in year 13. Start of year 12, I was just like, no, I'm a STEM person. You know, towards the end of year 13, after I failed that essay section, I was just like, you know, actually, I've just been lying to myself for like 5 years. And I was, you know, beginning to appreciate it. And also just learning more about, you know, my religion. It's not equations, you know, you can't explain, you know, things just through, you know, equations. Not everything can be explained like that. You know, that's where I grew in I guess in that way. But yeah, take humanity seriously. Also, something like, stop trying to get goals. like you're. How old was I?
They'll come eventually, bro.
I guess I stopped. Like I stopped when I was like 17. But yeah, up till then, like
you retired.
half my time, I was just spent thinking about like a crush or whatever. It was just such a waste of my time, and like it was emotionally, like it was just like. It's just not you know, not good. You're just like having your whole self-worth based on like how another person reacts to like how you speak, you know, what you do. It's very bad. It's not good for body image either. You know. Happy and healthy. What else can you be, bro? And the happy, I'll elaborate. Happy means contentment with you know, what you have in life. Not, you know, not necessarily just being like, I have these worldly possessions and therefore I'm happy. More that I'm content with whatever I have, whatever I've gone through in my life up to that point. I've been able to deal with, you know, and you know, not be kind of you know, basically not regress. You know, actually progress in terms of you know, myself spiritually, you know, emotionally. You know, in terms of my intelligence, my academics, or my you know, physical and mental ability. I just want to be better.
So level up.
Yeah, level up, evolve.
That's a wrap.
Oh man.
Thank you for coming on today, bro. Appreciate your time,
man.
man.
Thank you for having me. I've been watching your podcast for a very long time. I've been waiting for you to invite me. You know?
You're done now.
Just like I see that you've saved me, you know?
Bro. Let people know, yeah, to follow us on Instagram, TikTok.
Yeah, now I will.
Chat to the camera. Tell them, brother.
Follow Have You Met Podcast. What's your Have You Met Pod on Instagram and Twitter and TikTok, because I'm on it now.